Hi guys, welcome back. So a huge win for France, 40 points to 25 against the All Blacks. Another defeat for New Zealand. They're going to have a good think about their game. Maybe they are a bit tired, but in international rugby, there are no excuses. France played like their lives depended on it and deserved the win. So let's get into the game, talk about what comes up, and I'd love to know your comments. So first of all, 2 minutes in, France are completely fired up. They're making breaks from the start. Geordie Barrett goes with the world's worst clearance kick. I think he might have thought there was a penalty advantage or something, because he just punts it out sideways. Really weird, puts them under the pump, and indeed they concede from that error. So massive error from Geordie Barrett there. Mavaka goes piling over. He was impressive. 7-0 straight away. The crowd's going crazy. It just feeds into France's energy. And I make the note here that New Zealand just look half asleep. They need to wake up because France are just tearing at the walls to get at them, and New Zealand need to match them. And again, a note, as we saw through the whole of this game, Jaminet is a hell of a goal kicker. What a great striker. Didn't look like missing. He's impressive. Good runner as well. But then 6 minutes, they do wake up New Zealand. They get a couple of good penalties with some good offloading. A mirror image penalty as well a bit later. So they get it back to 7-6. So at least they're in the game now. We've got a game. 10 minutes in, France, they're quite happy just to bash it up tight sometimes with the big boppers. France are an interesting side. They don't quite flow in attack all the time like Ireland did against New Zealand. They're happy to play slow. They're happy just to beat you up and grind you down. But when they do go to the backs, they go quick and they've got amazing skill. So it's an interesting juxtapose, I guess, of styles there that really ground New Zealand down, and it worked. So they went wide, and a fantastic play from Pinot, Fickou, Intermac into play. Dupont, individual brilliance. Goodness me, he made a play, a good case of being World Player of the Year in this game. They're too quick, they're too dynamic individually and collectively, and it's Intermac in the end who goes flying over. Goodness me, he looks sharp. 14 points to 6 after 10 minutes. Just a worldie of a start from France. Now, it looks like France have just got that far at the moment. New Zealand a bit shell-shocked, a bit like the Ireland game in that kind of psychological sense, but also similar to the Ireland game. Will Jordan takes it upon himself to change it. Individually, he can do some great stuff. He cuts through, goes on a one-man mission, but good scramble defence from France. They snuff it out, and when France were under the pump, which they were, they scrambled so well and put out some fires. On 18 minutes, a clear French tactic is definitely to grind down these New Zealand forwards, play slow, test their physicality, test their resolve, suck that energy out of them, don't give them anything to get excited about. And the phases are pretty much just one-out stuff or pick and go, not complex but very tiring, and New Zealand are falling off tackles, so France are marching their way up the pitch. Then we get the second of Geordie Barrett's shocking kicks. Makes a bad error. They're dropping the ball as well. Missing tackles. Not good look for them at all. They've got them rattled. And indeed a really good jackal from Gelange gets another penalty, 17-6. And New Zealand, they're falling into the same trap like they did against Ireland. When they do get the ball in attack, they just look desperate to play their champagne rugby straight away. Sure, they've got an exciting attacking shape, looking to stretch teams and offload and only commit a few to the rucks, but if they haven't challenged a team like France physically, they're just going to line them up and tackle all day. So they've got to rethink that. The way they played best, I thought, on this tour for New Zealand was against Wales, where they spent pretty much the whole first half trying to beat Wales up, playing one-out stuff, tight stuff, and then cut loose. So they're falling into this trap, and it's really biting them. On 30 minutes, New Zealand continue to do this, and their handling has just deserted them. They're so low on confidence, and France are just pouncing on mistakes. They take one of these mistakes to 2 metres out, go for a 5 metre line-out maul from a penalty, too much power, and it's Mavaka again, peels off, goes to a super soft shoulder of Tupaia. That wasn't a good tackle either. 24-6, it's looking really bad for New Zealand. They've got to step up here, or they're going to get smashed. To be fair, in the second half, they do step up, and we'll get to that. And France, it just looks like the most important game they've ever played. Like I said, New Zealand's attacking shape looks great if they've done the hard yards, but they just haven't. Now, New Zealand ball handling does flow finally with 2 minutes to go in the half. It sticks and they get to within a few metres of the line, but then they knock it on right at the end. So that was a bit of a killer. So they go in half-time well down 24-6, a bit of a mountain to climb. Now, Ian Foster must have read the same notes as me. Well, he was watching the same game. So indeed, when New Zealand do get into the 22 in the second half, they finally start going a bit tighter and challenging France around the fringes with some direct picks and goes, some one-out passes, and a lovely spot blind by Geordie Barrett, and Smith with one of his trademark fizzing passes across the face scores a good try. So that's much better from New Zealand, 24-11, and it was quite poor defending from Pinot because they had their numbers lined up there and he just bit in a bit too much. Now, just a little note here on ref inconsistency, binding in a ruck. Some refs have been calling binding as shoulders on, some arms on, and in this game it was just hands on. So New Zealand get pinged for coming round when they think the ball is out, when they've literally the French players are just grabbing on with their hands. So they need a bit more consistency there. Not the players' fault. They need to know what binding is and what binding isn't in the referee's book. Anyway, let me know what you think about that. 50 minutes in. The pure desire from France in the tackle and the ruck is starting to tell again. It's impressive, but New Zealand are stepping it up and off a nice counter-attack, a classic New Zealand counter-attack. Whitelock, I think, rips the ball on this one. Rieko Ioane shows and goes, and goodness me, his main strength for a 13 is he's as quick as a winger, and he flies through the gap, 24-18. So they're coming back within 6 points. And this is a key point of the game. Where's the momentum going to go? Are New Zealand going to come on back into this game, or France going to pull away again? And it's France to get the next score, which is very important. Not rolling away penalty. Jaminet not looking like missing. Nails it, 27-18. But New Zealand, much better still. Slick drill gets New Zealand into the 22. And as soon as they get into the 22, then they go a bit tighter. And it's really working. They get a 5-metre maul, pick and go. Another try. Ardi Surveyor, 27-25. So much better. 2 points in it. So they really are coming back here. And I wondered if they were going to pull off an amazing comeback. But then we get the play of the match. New Zealand kick and chase. So that I think it's off a counter-attack again, actually. Intermac looks like he's pinned in his dead ball zone. But he beats 2 or 3 men, zooms up the touchline, then does a no-look reverse pass to Jaminet, back to Dupont. They work all the way up the pitch to 5 metres out. And from it, Severe concedes a yellow card. They don't score, but they get another penalty. So it's 30 points to 25. Just pulling away again, and it's a great game at this point. New Zealand are much better in attack, but France's sheer desperation is keeping them ahead. Players like Woki were absolutely epic. What a fantastic athlete Woki is. Then disaster strikes for New Zealand. An amazing rip from Kane. They want to counter-attack. Havili so desperate, he tries to pass whilst he's still in the air, but he does become the villain really there and forces a miracle pass while still in the air, and Pinot snaffles it and goes over. What a moment, 37-25, absolute heartbreak. And it does seem every match report I've written in this series for New Zealand has said, surely that's the last time we see Havili in an All Blacks top for a while. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe he needs to switch to 15. You let me know if you think he's good enough. And then I'll just make a note here on 70 minutes. New Zealand in the middle of the pitch, they're still trying to play their Harlem Globetrotters style when they're clearly not quite in the groove. And the handling on this tour just hasn't been good enough. Are they overestimating their ability? Do they need to mix it up a bit more, like France are doing, like other teams are doing? So many handling errors. They're just trying to buzz the ball about just a bit too much. And they need to maybe just simplify a bit, but that's killing them. France on 72 nearly scored another worldie from a midfield scrum. They reverse the play. Jaminet just misplaces the pass. That could have pushed them further ahead. They get a huge counter-scrum push, which gets them a 5-metre scrum. And Dupont, he's just amazing. Like a pinball, you can't put him down. Make something from nothing. An absolute beast of a scrum half. They get another 5-metre scrum, and they're 1 metre out, but they do concede a penalty. So, a chance to go further ahead. And the desire from France is just embarrassing New Zealand a bit, because they're just showing a bit more heart. The classic saying is they want it that bit more. So France's back row tackles and tackles. They win a penalty. They knock one over, 40 points to 25. And that's the game. So guys, so much to talk about there. Pop all those comments below, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you next time.